Good morning, this is Neha Srivastava, reporting live from CNN.
This is CNN, and we have breaking news. A top-secret, unpublished, unidentified news report was found at APLAC headquarters today. The paper contained top-secret information about Citizen4, the 2014 Oscar-awarded documentary about Edward Snowden, directed by Laura Poitras.
We are here at APLAC headquarters and have found the official report. Citizen4 is the third in filmmaker Laura Poitras' series of documentaries on post-9/11 America, when government laws became considerably tighter and more stringent. Her aim with these documentaries had been to depict the schism existing between American citizens and their government on the plane of transparency, and the increasing lack of access citizens had to look into the U.S. administration. Poitras filmed Edward Snowden's story as a tribute to members of this administration who defied the heavily binding bureaucracy to keep checks on the control of the U.S. government and give its citizens their basic rights. By showing how Edward Snowden, a lower-rung technician of the National Surveillance Agency, leaked classified information about the government's extensive surveillance programs, Poitras urgently conveys to Americans the need for the courage of whistleblowers and journalists in sustaining democracy in the midst of an increasingly rigid and powerful administration. Edward Snowden, through Poitras' Citizen4, embodies the everyday American hero. Because most of the movie is made a real film of Snowden in his Hong Kong hotel room where he initially stayed after taking the NSA documents, the intimate setting allows the audience to meet the until now elusive fugitive personally. This also lets Snowden become bare to the viewer, such that he is free to represent himself in a way he thinks will be beneficial for him, instead of having Poitras narrate her point of view of Snowden. Throughout the film, the viewer hears and sees Snowden as one of their own kind, as part of the common American public. Snowden tells a journalist that reported his story with emphasis that he stole the documents because of his strong support for the freedom of speech of every citizen, making the battle against federal surveillance not for himself, but for all Americans. This immediately appeals to everyday viewers because they're taking him at face value instead of through the ornate words of a government official or scholar. More than anything, it allows director Laura Poitras to exclude much of criticism of Snowden's intentions and to not consider the negative impacts of his actions. It makes the story biased in his favor and conducive to Poitras' purpose of supporting whistleblowers like Snowden. According to statements made by journalists in the documentary, Snowden had 20,000 documents that detailed domestic and international NSA surveillance programs, such as the secret court orders that allow NSA to possess almost all of Verizon's customers' phone records, according to Glenn Greenwald, TheGuardian.com. However, Poitras did not include that British authorities of the counter-terrorism branch of the Metropolitan Police had found, soon after the leaks, at least 3 times of that number of copies of documents. The reason Poitras and other journalists ever undertook the dangerous mission of helping him reveal the information he had, and why a documentary like Citizen4 was made in the first place, was because of the threats the surveillance programs and detailed in the documents posed to the public. However, according to the New York Times, none of this is proven by the documents Snowden stole, and no individual harmed an American could be pinpointed to. In an NPR interview, Glenn Greenwald, one of the journalists that helped leak Snowden's information to the world, admitted that there is no evidence the NSA followed through on plans to use online activities to blackmail people or ruin their reputations, or otherwise coerce and threaten them. Poitras, in the light of these facts, appears insistent on her pre-decided view of Snowden as a hero in Citizen4. So, does Snowden actually know what was in all of those 20,000 and more documents? Well, in the documentary, Snowden explicitly states that he went through all the information in the documents, which presents him as accountable to his actions and trustworthy. Glenn Greenwald, the journalist that assisted him, also asserted that Snowden was aware of all the information that he was passing over. Snowden's image in the documentary is consistent with these words. He speaks in very technical terms, which builds an appeal of ethos towards the audience, conveying that he really knows what he's doing and the implications of it. However, John Oliver of The Guardian later revealed that Snowden had actually not read the documents and was not aware of the content of a large part of them in an interview. It can be deduced that if director Poitras had included these facts in a documentary, the image of Snowden as highly aware of the information and its supposedly dangerous implications for the public would be maligned, and her documentary would lose credibility. In the documentary, Snowden appears to relinquish all possession and jurisdiction over the documents to journalists Glenn Greenwald and Ewan McCaskill, stating over encrypted chat that he gave all the classified documents he had obtained to journalists he met in Hong Kong. However, Snowden did in fact take part in releasing some of the documents, which was not depicted in the documentary. According to Business Insider, Snowden handed over the operational details of ongoing NSA surveillance in China to the South China Morning Post, which was an act that many call traitorous, even his supporters in the US. His ACLU lawyer additionally stated that all the documents were not handed over to journalists Ewan McCaskill and Glenn Greenwald, as had originally been planned. Although the lawyer was part of the documentary, his statement correcting Snowden's was not included. Such information was omitted by Poitras, as it would obviously badly blemish her portrayal of whistleblowers as heroes and not traitors of the American public. The documentary is biased through its strict perspective of only Snowden and the journalists. At one point, Greenwald, who wrote the first articles about the leaks, even expresses with fervor his outright support for Snowden's stand. This allows Poitras to show a very limited view of Snowden, and she does not seem culpable in her bias because the main medium of the film was her open footage, depicting her as a bystander without any purposeful intentions in choosing what to include. The whole documentary is rooted in the hotel room that Snowden occupies while in his stay in Hong Kong, where he initially escaped to after taking the NSA documents. This confines the documentary to only Snowden's exchange with the journalist and the muted responses towards the NSA leaks. It excludes any detailed discussion of events that followed in Russia, where Snowden took asylum. This allowed Poitras to omit the more serious potential effects of Snowden's action in the larger scope, including possible stealing of classified information of the US government by Russian and Chinese spies. This would of course impact the American public, for which Snowden allegedly stood. Hiding Snowden's secrets. Poitras includes testimony to the lies of top NSA officials in federal court, in which they deny any surveillance of American citizens, which of course was false. However, she does not expose any lies that Snowden has been known to claim of, such as his disproved knowledge of the Russian surveillance system, according to Tom Simonite, MIT Technology Review. Dragging down the adversary of her subject, the US government, Poitras maligns the administration to boost support for Snowden and other whistleblowers. However, by not delving into and omitting Snowden's background details, Poitras creates a speculation of what Snowden's true motives were. As Michael Cohen of the Daily Beast asks, why did he steal so many documents that have nothing to do with domestic surveillance, but rather overseas and legal intelligence gathering operations? But Poitras continues to avoid answers and very pressing questions, letting the documentary be ever in Snowden's favor.
Signing off from CNN's APLAC headquarters, this is Meha.